Thank you very much for the introduction. We are Sisters Against Plastic. I'm Theresa, and this is my sister Mary. The most common question we do get asked is, yes, we are real sisters. Sisters Against Plastic is something that Mary and I started back in 2018. And it all started in a very similar way to lots of other people who have decided on how they were going to reduce their plastic waste. And that's because they watched David Attenborough's Blue Planet. And that really opened up our eyes to the whole plastic problem. And for a long time, for a few months, I'd always thought I've got to do something about my plastic waste. But every time I went shopping, that priority just fell down the list. There were other things that were becoming more important than plastic. I had to feed a family, I had to cater for the vegetarians in my family, I had to keep to a family budget, and the plastic packaging just kept falling down the priority list. But then I had this kind of light bulb moment, and this was Christmas 2017. And Christmas morning, I had a lovely Christmas with my young family, and I went to the bin to put something in the bin, and the entire bin was completely full with unrecyclable plastic. And I looked in my recycle bin, and that also was full. And I thought, I've got to do something about this now. I can't let plastic keep falling down my priority list. So I sat back and I thought, how am I going to manage this? And it suddenly dawned on me, I need to treat plastic like a diet. I need to go on a plastic diet. I need to reduce gradually, and I need to eliminate plastic out of my life. So I thought, how am I going to be able to do this? And I thought, well, the best way to go on a diet is to make somebody go on it with you. So I enlisted the help of my lovely sister Mary, and over a glass of wine, we came up with a battle plan for the year of how we were going to go on this plastic diet. Now, Mary, being the more competitive of the two of us, decided to make this into a competition. And we decided that we were going to, throughout an entire year, reduce our plastic in a friendly, competitive way. Now, of course, we did have to get the whole family on board, which was quite a challenge. Quite a challenge with our husbands. They did take a little bit of convincing. The children got on board straight away. They were very enthused by all of this. You know, the element of competing with their cousins to win a homemade trophy, you know, what's better than that? So there we were. We decided we were going to spend an entire year making ourselves reduce our plastic, parodying this diet. I'm going to let Mary explain to you now exactly how this diet worked.
So got to January and we thought the first thing we need to do really is size up the problem. We wanted to really understand exactly how big plastic was in our lives. So for the first month, for the entirety of January, we didn't change anything. We lived completely as normal, and what we did was we collected every single bit of plastic that would have otherwise ended up either in our waste bin or in the recycling bin, and we put it in a separate box. And as the month went on, that mounted up and mounted up, and I admit at the beginning I thought, I'm probably quite good, do you know what, this will be a doddle. I'm pretty good. I always recycle things. I don't really think I'm very wasteful. I probably won't have that much. This is going to be quite easy. To say that was an understatement would be an understatement in itself. And if Babette can now share the pictures with you, you'll see in a moment just exactly what we collected after that just 1 month. And you know, when we looked at it, there wasn't anything unusual. What was being collected was really ordinary stuff that every family, every person would come across in their lives. So there was wrappers, there were crisp packets, there were bottles, milk bottles, and we thought, gosh, what we're going to do? This is really, really overwhelming. But actually, because we'd collected everything, it was really, really helpful because it meant that we could actually see where we were collecting the most. And I'm going to try and move over to the next slide here. Yeah. So here is a picture of us just holding the weight that we had. We had to get massive bags in order to just hold everything. And you can see the weights under there, you know, over 4.5 kilograms Theresa had, and I had nearly 3.5 kilograms. And when you're thinking about plastic, which is a very light material, you've got to collect quite a lot to reach that kind of weight. So it was really quite overwhelming, and we're really, really surprised at just how much we had. But what it did mean was that we could actually see exactly what was in there, and we could then begin to eliminate, begin to pick off different things. It turns out I had quite a serious sparkling water habit. So if I could tackle that, then I would eliminate a lot of plastic. Equally, Theresa had a load of milk bottles, the plastic milk bottles. And we thought, right, if you can get rid of that, then that's going to eliminate a lot of your plastic. I'm going to move over to just the next picture, which really demonstrates exactly, just check, I'm not sure whether they can see. Oh, can everybody see this? Is that...
Yeah, I'm just moving them on for you guys.
Okay, thank you. So I wasn't sure if that worked. The picture here, on the left, you've got Theresa sat on her kitchen floor, literally surrounded in plastic, and that was everything that she collected in January. And it's just masses. We were just so unbelievably shocked by that. There's a bit of a spoiler alert here, because the picture on the right is her in January with all of her December of that year, with everything that she'd collected in December. So you can see just what a difference it made. So we got to the end of that month. We could see exactly what we had and where the particular problem areas, and we were ready then to take on the rest of the year by taking each different area step by step. And we decided we'd take a theme each month, with the aim that we would therefore make long-term sustainable lifestyle changes, because it wouldn't be suddenly one day turn the tap off. We were going to do it slowly over a prolonged period of time. I'll hand over to Theresa now, and I think we're done with the pictures, unless you want to leave those up.
Yeah, Keita, is that okay to take the pictures down there? Thank you. There we go, the pictures going. Oh, I'll carry on whilst the pictures are going down. Thank you.
There we go.
All right, so after we'd spent January kind of getting our baseline about where exactly the problem was, we were quite keen to make sure that this was actually going to work. So we thought, okay, February, we're going to focus on just getting some really easy wins under our belt. Okay, so we focused on that really dead easy stuff. So Mary had a habit for sparkling water, so she very simply just eliminated that by getting a soda stream. I got a milkman, so I didn't have the cartons of milk anymore, and we did the really basic stuff like shopping with plastic free for our fruit and veg, and for changing our liquid soap and shower gels into solid form. Now, that's all we did for a whole month, just that really basic, easy stuff. And it was absolutely phenomenal, the difference that made. Just in that 1 month, I reduced my plastic waste by 37%. And that was just doing the easy stuff. So if there's one thing that you take away from this, it's that the easy stuff massively mounts up. You'll be so surprised at just by picking out just tiny little things here and there, you can make a massive dent on your plastic waste. You don't have to start living like Swampy. You don't have to become a hippie and start living in the woods. You could just do that really easy stuff, and it has that huge impact on your plastic waste. Another really important thing that we decided to do this month was to make sure that we weren't going to be depriving our families of anything, something that our children and husbands were very keen to make sure we were doing. So we decided we were going to see what treats and snacks and things we could get plastic free. So we had a brilliant afternoon of going out and finding all of the plastic free sweets and treats that we could find around the town. And actually, there's quite a lot. The best time of year is when it comes to Easter, because completely guilt-free, we could eat as many Cadbury's cream eggs as we wanted, all wrapped in lovely foil and nothing to do with plastic. So, yeah, you don't have to live like monks. You can enjoy the finer things in life when you are reducing your plastic. So there we go. So February became quite an easy step. Mary's going to tell you some of the problems that we came up against.
So one of the things that we found quite early on, and we kept coming up against this as we travelled through the year and went on our plastic reduction journey, was that sometimes when you're trying to find a non-plastic alternative, you may simply be displacing the issue. So, for example, one of the issues that we came up against was the carbon footprints. Theresa and I have both found what we find really good alternatives to toilet rolls packaged in a plastic outer, is that we both buy huge boxes that are individually wrapped in paper. Now, from a plastic point of view, that's brilliant. There's no plastic. However, when you think about where it's come from, the paper that's still involved, some people may think, actually, it's not worth that. It's not worth the carbon footprint that it potentially has gone through in order to get to me as a plastic-free alternative. Another example is perhaps your makeup. So for some people, making sure that they get makeup that is completely cruelty-free, that hasn't been tested on animals, is an absolute priority. Therefore, when you're seeking plastic-free alternatives, if there isn't one that ticks that box, that maintains your dedication to cruelty-free, then it might be you decide, actually, I'm not going to go for the plastic-free alternative because that's not something that I want to sacrifice. Another example, and this is a really classic one, is around food waste. So people always say, oh, cucumbers, why do they always come in plastic? That's so annoying. And yes, it is annoying. And that was one of the things that we said straight away. It's like, why can't we find a cucumber without a plastic outer? And we actually had a conversation with the co-op and they trialled doing cucumbers without plastic because they equally thought, why have we got this plastic? It seems really unnecessary. However, they got to the end of their trial and they found that they'd thrown away a whole load of cucumbers. So the net effect of eliminating that plastic was that a whole load of food waste was created. So when you're thinking about plastic-free alternative, it's not quite as black and white, and there's not a silver bullet that will suddenly eliminate all of these issues. And we were really becoming more and more aware of this. Now, of course, our priority was plastic. So that was the first thing we looked for. But what we wanted to make sure was that we were at least aware of them and able to make a judgment based on knowledge and based on information so that we were comfortable with the decision that we were making. And that's what we would always advise other people if they are trying to reduce their plastic. It's fine if you decide that there's something else that actually takes greater priority. We can't necessarily win at everything. We might find sometimes that we can. But don't beat yourself up too much if you can't win at everything, or you decide actually the plastic-free alternative just doesn't do it for you because you are going to sacrifice some other priority that you have. You know, that's okay. We're all supporting each other and just don't feel bad about it.
Right, so as Mary said, there's a lot more involved when we were trying to reduce our plastic. And actually, as we went through our year of the plastic diet, we were picking out certain things and we were coming up against a lot of brick walls. We were coming up against a lot of problems. And this really had quite an impact on our enthusiasm for this. And there was some months when we actually increased, rather than decreased, we started going up on our plastic waste. Always just have to dust ourselves off and get back on the horse with this. But there was one moment about halfway through the year when I've got to admit I was feeling pretty low. There was I was coming up against too many the hurdles, and there was a few things happened that pulled our spirits back up. The first thing that happened was my 10-year-old daughter asked if her mum and Auntie Mary could go into her school to talk to her class about what we were doing about our plastic waste. Now, of course, we went in and this was brilliant. But what really touched us was how important this issue was to 10-year-olds and to all children. They really get this problem. They understand that this is a problem that they will be facing for their future. And they know that they have a responsibility to do something about it. And watching 30 10-year-olds try and understand how they can reduce plastic in their own lives is quite something. They really do want to do something about it. And it's our responsibility to influence and show them the way on this. A few other things happened as well. We were finding actually that there were so many more options to buy plastic free, even on the high street. We were finding plastic free soaps and shampoos all in the shops, lots and lots more available to us. Also, quite importantly, we weren't the weirdos anymore. We weren't the only ones that were going up to the fish counter and the deli counters in the supermarket with our own Tupperware and saying, "Can you put it in this, please?" rather than wrapping it in plastic. You know, other people were doing that. We weren't just the only weirdos on the planet anymore. And we were also finding that actually plastic and the environment were becoming part of the top priority in the news and with the government. And so we had to take this moment where we thought, actually, what are we doing this for? Well, we're doing it for all of this. We might think that we're not changing the world. We might think that we're not doing much just by taking our own bags when we go to the supermarket, or to switching to solid soap, or to, you know, shopping plastic free with our fruit and veg. But actually, all those little things are making a massive difference. Now, the big people that can make the changes, the big manufacturers and the government policymakers, they are listening. We are making the noise. You and I, every time we go to the shops, we are voting with our wallets. We are sending a message to manufacturers to say, we no longer find this acceptable. We are sending messages to the government with our actions, and we are saying we must do something about this. Every single thing that we buy and every action that we are taking has a ripple effect. And all of that noise, all of us together, all of these little things, all of that noise is being heard by the policymakers and the decision makers. And all of that is having an effect. It really does matter. So anytime you think this doesn't really matter, this is just a tiny drop in the ocean, it does. It is having an effect.
So with that kind of enthusiasm and that buoying us up, we we thought it is worth it, and we wanted then to widen our community and share our message further in more ways. We were also at this point in the year getting some real stubborn areas where we couldn't reduce our plastic. So for me, I was finding it really hard to find any alternative for cereal coming in plastic, or for pasta and lentils and dried fruit and nuts, all those things that in supermarkets come in tiny little packets that are plastic, so massive amount of plastic. So we thought, let's do something ourselves. Let's take this one step further. And the first thing we did was we set up something called a buying group. Now, some of you might have come across, and you might be lucky enough to have access to a zero waste food shop. A really great way to shop. You can go along with your own containers and fill them up with the dried food that you want. We didn't have access to the one at the time, so we thought, well, let's set one up ourselves, not on the scale of a shop, but in a kind of cooperative style community group. We went direct to the wholesalers, we bought all those dried food, and we then distributed them amongst a community that we had created. So that was really great, and a lot of people have been really interested in it, and it's kind of gone from strength to strength, and it means that we've now got access to that plastic-free food. Another really simple thing that we took on was, we both have children at school, so we're both actively involved in the school community. And when we went along to PTA events, we found that adults obviously want a cup of tea or coffee. They were all being produced in styrofoam cups. Really frustrating, really, really bad disposable plastic to come across, and a really simple one to fix. What we did was we went home, found all the old cups that we had, old ceramic cups that we had a shout out for a ceramic cup amnesty, made a big collection in a box, went along to the school PTA and said, look, next time you have an event, how about you use these instead of the styrofoam cups? When you finish, we'll take them home, we'll clean them, and then we'll bring it back. And you can just keep doing that instead of countless styrofoam cups being used and thrown away and going to landfill. Really easy and really successful. The third initiative that we did was relating to clothes. Now, clothes aren't something that you necessarily think of as having plastic in them, but there are plastic in the microfibers of some clothes. There's also plastic involved in obviously the packaging, the manufacture. And there are other issues around the disposable nature of clothes that we were becoming more and more aware of, and I'm sure you are aware of. And this was not was particularly rife when it came to our children's school uniform and all of our friends' children's school uniform, who it seemed at the end of each school year would just throw away what they no longer needed because their children had grown out of them. They weren't necessarily worn through or no longer good. So what we said was, right, instead of that all going to landfill, let's create a system whereby parents can donate their old clothes. We'll then advertise them, and other people can then come and take them for themselves for a donation. A really easy win-win for everyone. So these relatively simple things gave us another boost to say there's so much more that we can do, and we're eliminating plastic in our lives and in all the people in our community that we created. So onwards and upwards.
Yeah, it really was. And, you know, doing all these initiatives, this is something that anybody can do. And it's really nice to see. We've actually doing these initiatives, lots of people across the whole globe have started doing these, you know, taking inspiration from this. It just takes one person just to put their head above the parapet and say, I'm willing to do that. Our last little thing that I want to talk about our year is one of the, I think, our most valuable lessons that we learned through this year. And that was that we all have our limits. Now, your limit might be you've got a favourite snack that's wrapped in plastic, or your limit might be you've got a favourite bit of makeup that you like, and that's in plastic. Everyone has their limits, even us sisters have limits. Now, confession time, my limit is toothpaste. Now, I know I've tried Dentitabs, little tablets that you can use instead of toothpaste. Mary, for a little while, tried what was it?
Toothpaste soap stick. And literally, it's like soap.
It was like brushing your teeth with shower gel. This wasn't a pleasant experience. That's my limit. I have a limit, so I still use Colgate out of a plastic tube. But the funny thing is, lots of people say to us, they see us using plastic and, you know, they're kind of like, oh, Theresa and Mary using plastic. But actually, just because I've got a limit with one thing doesn't mean I can't do everything else. And it's really important, if you've got that limit, just to kind of make your peace with that and say, OK, that's where my line is. But everything else I can still try with. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. So another example of this is actually sometimes you don't have to make that complete and utter elimination. Sometimes it can just be a little reduction. A real classic with this is the shampoo bars. It takes quite a long time to get used to a shampoo bar. Now, it was fairly easy for me because I've got very short hair. I've actually got very little hair. So it was easy for me to get used to a shampoo bar. But other people, it does take a lot longer. However, you don't have to exclusively use that shampoo bar. Just by using that shampoo bar once a week or once a fortnight, you are still having an impact on your plastic waste. Another really classic thing that lots of people have done is when they're doing their laundry, they like to use fabric softener. Now, I always like to use fabric softener in my laundry. We'll talk about some different alternatives we've got for that in a moment. But if you are not willing to get rid of something like that, have a look at the amount you're using. Now, the amount on the packaging might say you've got to use a full cup of fabric softener. Test it out in your laundry. Can you actually get away with just half of that? And if you're using half of the recommended amount, instantly, overnight, you are halving the amount of plastic that you're using for fabric softener. So you don't have to make that complete swap. You don't have to immediately go plastic free. Just doing that elimination, just reducing little bits here and there, all of that is adding up. It's not an all or nothing situation. So we've got some examples. So as you can see, we're in Mary's kitchen at the moment. So Mary, if you want to go over to your kitchen, I'm going to take you there.
Okay.
And Mary's got some examples of some plastic-free swaps and some plastic-free reductions that she's got in her kitchen. I can see lots of people are giving some great examples in the comments section as well. So if I bring us over here,
are you able to flip the screen?
I can't, no, so I'll come around this side.
So as I'm going to take you through, you know, a normal person using their kitchen. and show you some of the products that we've got. As we go along, if you see anything that you think you want to know a bit more about, or you have a question about a particular item in the kitchen, put a question in the comment section and Theresa will pick it up, and hopefully I'll be able to address that here. So I'm going to start at the sink. So over here, first thing you have to do is you've got to do your washing up. Now, Theresa and I actually did try making our own washing up liquid. We did it with we even did it with using conkers. Did you know that you can blend up conkers and get washing up liquid? We did do it. It did make it clean, and this is one of those limits that Theresa and I have talked about. Nothing really beats a good old bottle of Fairy. So I do still use Fairy. But what I do is I just put it in a separate dispenser. So this dispenser here, I can pump it and be much more limiting in the amount that I put in my dishes, and therefore I don't use as much. So like Theresa was just saying, rather than getting through a bottle of Fairy every month, it takes 2 or 3 months. So that's reducing my plastic. And the other thing that I've got is reusable dishcloth and a reusable scrubby. So I just use a dish. It looks pretty awful, but actually I throw it in the washing machine and it comes out clean, and it can keep being used again and again and again. I've had this for a long time. I've also got a scrubby. So this acts like a one of those sponges with the green on the back that you can scour away with. I really love this. I found this in my local kitchen shop, and it works really, really well. There's a couple of questions. Oh yeah. We've also recently come across this Eco Nut Scourer. We haven't actually used it yet, so I can't tell you how good it is. But there's loads of stuff like this about that you can use instead of the traditional sponge that has bacteria growing on it as well as being plastic. So there's some really great alternatives there. I'm going to go under the sink now. I don't know if you can see. We've got, so one of the things that Theresa talked about was swapping from a liquid hand soap to a hard soap. At the moment, we're obviously all really conscious about making sure that we are really hygienic. And I just wanted to show you here, Dettol do a antibac bar of soap. So really, really easy. This has been around for years. You can get it in your local hardware shop or your supermarket really easily. So also in here, I have just some little handmade scrubbies that I use for the floor. They just go in the dishwasher at the end. So that's really easy. I also have dishwasher tablets. So dishwasher tablets are something that, you can get them in a plastic pouch and then an individually plastic wrapped, obviously loads of plastic. But if you look a little bit harder, you can find box with tablets that are completely dissolvable. Now, I think when we started, these were quite hard to come by, but now this you can pick up at Sainsbury's really, really easily. And then, you're not having to pay massive amount more than you do for the standard stuff.
Mary, just to interrupt, somebody's asking what your scrubbies are made of.
So this one here is it's a cotton. They've just the way that they've woven it is gives it kind of a rough texture. And as I say, that was from a kitchen shop. These ones down here, again, are just cotton, and actually I made these out of old baby muslins. So they're really absorbent, and they just go in the wash really, really easily and come up really well. As I showed you earlier, this one that we haven't yet tried is coconut fibres, and that's much harder actually, so I would suspect that might work a bit better.
Lots of people talking about the refills that you can get for your washing up liquid as well.
Yeah, so washing up liquid, this is something that we've come across in both washing up liquid and cleaning products. So if I show you the laundry, because there's a company that Theresa has come across, which she really got on really well with, that do both laundry detergent as well as things like washing up liquid and cleaning products, and that's Splosh. And what they do is they send you
underneath.
That one?
No.
Sorry.
Pick up the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. What they do is they send you a pouch like this, which is full of the detergent. You then put that into the bottle to then use every day and send that back. There are also other companies that do things like send small concentrates that you dissolve in water within your bottles. I picked this up from Wilko's. It's a concentrate all-purpose cleaning gel. You use a squirt of that. I put it in an old bottle, and there's my antibacterial spray. So I use this bottle over and over and over again, and this does I think it's about 20 bottles worth. So far less plastic than if I bought a new bottle every time. If we go over to laundry now, because I've sort of started to talk about some of the different products. So there's Splosh. We also have, I use something called an eco egg. So some of you might have heard of these. This is like a little rubber egg that's inside. If I can open it, I'll show you. You refill it with mineral pellets. So you get sent these mineral pellets, and it's like a natural cleaner, and these rub together. And I mean, it sounds like magic to me, but it does work. I've been using it for over 2 years. My clothes come out clean. Occasionally I need to use a stain remover to get like a particularly stubborn stain out, but you just literally throw that in your washing machine, and it works a treat. I've just seen someone say they love their eco egg. That's brilliant. And you've also mentioned the dryer eggs, which I also use. They're here. Similarly, you just chuck that into your dryer. I really, really like these because I think these give off a really nice smell. One of the complaints that you get about eco eggs is that they don't really give off that like fresh laundry smell that people like. However, if you use them with the laundry eggs, you get that really nice smell, and also it leaves it really soft. So I actually don't use fabric softener. I don't feel like I need to, and particularly when it comes to towels, if you put them through the dryer, this leaves them coming out really soft. So really, really recommend those. If we move over a bit, have you got any other questions just about that before I yeah, someone's mentioning using lavender oil with their eco egg. That's a really good way of getting that kind of nice smell.
And white vinegar as well.
Yeah,
the ultimate cleaner.
yeah. If in doubt, there's always white vinegar and citric acid, isn't there? I'm going to go over to the fridge now and just have a look at some of the stuff that we use in there. Right, so, I mean, you'll see there's some sins in here. I've got children, they like yogurts, so I've got plastic yogurts because there's just not really an alternative. But there we go, that's one of my lines. Some of you may have seen these reusable fruit and veg bags. I take these to the supermarket or to the grocers. I put all my, particularly when you're buying lots of small things like mushrooms, I put those in there, and instead of getting loads of those little tiny plastic bags. I also am a massive lover of Tupperware and reusing takeaway containers for leftovers. Not all plastic is bad. What you need to remember is if you've got plastic, use it, and use it well and look after it so that it can last as long as possible. Just because there's a plastic-free alternative, don't get rid of your plastic that you've already got. Use it and make sure it keeps going really well. The last thing I'll show you in the fridge are beeswax wraps. Again, some of you might have seen these. So this is a great alternative to cling film. I use these beeswax wraps. I hope you can see how well it works. So you literally, it's just like a sheet of cling film that you put on and mold it around what you're trying to cover, and they work really, really well. You can put it on plates, you can put it around cheese, you can put it on directly on food, and you just give it a rinse afterwards. The one thing you need to remember is not to put it in hot water like Theresa did, because then you lose all the beeswax wrap off it and you have to re-wax it. But you can re-wax it, so it's not even as if you're, having to get rid of it at the end. I've just said someone said you can get them out of beeswax too. Yeah, I think they are starting to come up with alternatives of beeswax.
Right, Mary, you've just got time to let's look at your pantry, and then we're going to move over to the bathroom.
So here's the pantry. You'll see here lots of the dried food, so in jars. I've also got all yogurt tubs. So where you do have to have the yogurt, we've got yogurt that's a really good tub afterwards that can be used as a storage. So at least it's not going straight in the bin and it's getting used for something else. Things like oil. So I actually buy a massive tub of oil. That's another alternative if you're finding you can't eliminate. But more you buy, the more efficient it is in terms of wrapping. So that's something I do, is I buy a big thing of olive oil and I decant it into bottles. And it also generally is more economic as well. That's something that a lot of people ask us, is that is it more expensive to be plastic free? And I think in some respects it is, but when it's come to the food, certainly for me, it's not been more expensive. The way that I eat now and the way that I cook with all the dried foods actually has turned out cheaper, and probably better for me, because I have more organic foods by going through the buying group the way that I do. Right, before we move upstairs, are there any last few questions? Lots of chat about the washing. Yeah, love a line full of washing. Of course, yeah, I do go out. I do dry stuff outside when the weather's good, but let's face it, in the winter in the UK, it's a bit more tricky. Okay, right, we'll go upstairs now.
Just going to follow me then. We're just going to move up towards the bathroom so we can see some of the plastic-free and plastic reduction alternatives that we've got up there. Lots of things that I'm seeing in the chat is that actually this is going back to what's commonly referred to as the good old days. Yeah, back in a make, do, amend world, you know, this is just standard practice for a lot of people. And that is absolutely brilliant. That is the way forward, and that's how we should all be doing this. Right. So there's a few things in here then for in our bathroom. Again, like in the kitchen, if you see anything in here that you think, oh, that looks interesting, pop it in the comments and Mary will be able to ask me to focus on that. A few things that I'm going to talk about here though. If we have a look over here, Mary did mention before. Is that okay? Right, lovely. It looks like the bathroom that we went to might not have as good internet connection as we thought. So I'm going to go back down the kitchen and Mary's going to bring some stuff to me. Okay. So one of the things that we know can be a problem is that the bamboo toothbrushes, although they're brilliant for kids, then just don't cut it for us as adults. Certainly don't cut it for me. I like my electric toothbrush. But actually there is an alternative to that, and this is something from Live Cocoa, and this black toothbrush head that is entirely recyclable, including the bristles. We just have to send that back, so that's a great alternative for us. Other alternatives, something that I use and my teenage daughter use, instead of using the dreaded wipes, we use the makeup removers, and actually we use this, which is absolutely brilliant. This is it's simply called a pink cloth, and this, without any product at all, removes makeup really, really nicely. So we really like that. My daughter and I both use that. Other things there, something we mentioned earlier was about makeup. Now, one of the real priorities for me in particular is cruelty-free. So when I am choosing my makeup, not only am I looking for plastic free, but my main concern is to make sure that it is cruelty free. A great place to shop for plastic free and cruelty free together is Lush. So this literally is it's a blusher stick. I find some lots of makeup in glass, and indeed, actually, you can find pretty decent makeup even in cardboard. There are options out there. You do have to look a little bit further, but there are options there. Lots of my makeup does come from Lush. I can see somebody looking for that, and the pink cloth. I just ordered this online. You can get this in most places now. I don't think it's from a particular shop. Indeed, I think you can get it anywhere. It's called Makeup Vanisher. There you go, pink cloth Makeup Vanisher if you search for that one. Another thing on there, obviously, we're not just all for trying to get plastic-free women with our makeup. I use this. Now this is great. This is our plastic-free razor. As one of my friends suggested, that this is like the razor blades that you replacing here are like the ones that you might hide in a cake if you're trying to get somebody out of prison. So you have to be very careful with something like this. But these are great if you want to reduce your plastic when you're disposable razors. The best thing to use that with is, this is my plastic-free shaving foam. If you're going to use that, top tip for that is use one of these brushes. With this brush, with the plastic-free shaving foam, you get a really, really good lather. It's pretty useless if you don't use the brush with that. So make sure you get a brush too. There are some other really great ones. There's lots of plastic-free deodorants out there. Mixed reviews for a lot of them, but this one, Cutis, tends to come out really well. Both Mary and I use this one. We have used this for a couple of years yet, and we haven't had any complaints yet about how much we smell. So I'm presuming that this works out quite nicely. It's a really great one. It's vegan friendly, comes in cardboard. It's got various different scents. We really, really enjoy this one. This is the best one that we've found so far. Yeah, vegan friendly. Yeah, that's often, like we said, if you've got other priorities, that is often a really important one. Another place that I get lots of my bathroom products from are Neil's Yard. Now, Neil's Yard, they have a variety of things, some in glass, some in plastic, but the great thing about Neil's Yard is it ticks so many boxes of all the other priorities. So they're much kinder to our water system and our wildlife. They're much kinder when it comes to fair trade and vegan friendly and all of this. So Neil's Yard, slightly more expensive, but again, you know, this is something that's on my priority list. You know, I like to have a good moisturizer. You wouldn't believe I'm actually 83. So there's lots and lots of different options there. I'm looking through here. Here we've got our shampoo bars. Now I did admit earlier that actually using a shampoo bar is fairly easy for me because I've got very short hair. But these ones here, Kind 2, this is a shampoo bar and this is actually a conditioner bar. These are amazing. I would highly recommend these, especially the conditioner bar. You might feel that it's expensive, but I think it came out about £7 for one of these, but this will give you 80 washes. And the shampoo bar will give you about 60 washes. These are absolutely fantastic. If you don't want to go for a solid shampoo, a great way to do that, and this is Mary's one, this is her refillable shampoo. There's a couple of ways you can do that. You could either go and refill at a zero waste shop, or like Mary's done, she's bought a massive vat of shampoo. Now again, of course, that has come in a plastic tub, but when we look at how much plastic is used to package that one massive tub compared to buying individual 700 milliliter tubs, it's a huge saving in plastic. One of the big debates that rages on all of the sustainability forums is toilet paper, where you get your toilet paper from. And actually there were loads of really options with good options. We've got Who Gives a Crap here and the Good Roll. Now, of course, one of the main things is this kind on your bum. Yes, we do agree that these are kind on your bum. And there's lots of other benefits. You can choose whether you get recycled paper, whether you get bamboo, whether they come wrapped, or whether they come naked. There's loads of different options there. You have to work out which is your priority.
I think someone asked earlier as well about the carbon footprint, which is something I mentioned. You know, this has travelled quite far. But one of the things we would say is ask whether your normal Andrex has travelled as far, because sometimes people say, oh, that pecan nut has come from somewhere really far away, therefore I'm not going to get it zero waste, I'm just going to go and get it from Tesco. When actually, if it might not tick all the boxes, but if it's better than what you've got originally, what you're normally getting, it probably is still okay. So don't just think because this has got a large carbon footprint, it's really evil compared to what you would get normally, because actually we don't manufacture toilet paper here. So that's just one example, but you know, that's again weighing up those different priorities and the different evils that we might be coming across.
Yeah.
Sorry, Theresa.
No, that's great. What we're just going to round up now, because I can see we're coming up to the end of our time. Somebody has mentioned, can we get a list of all of these things? Because actually these make really, really great Christmas gifts.
Yeah.
You know, it's really quite satisfying putting together like a little hamper of plastic-free items, and often they do look really, really beautiful, and so they do make lovely gifts. The best way to see all the stuff that we have personally tested is to go to our Facebook page, and if you look through all the photos, you can see lots of things. Lucy's asked if we want to do a 5-minute Q&A. Yep.